Board Member De Leon is absent. We have Board Member Demouche with us today. Board Member Ward?
Present.
Board Member Macias is absent, but we have Board Member Weir with us today. Board Member Flores? Absent. Board Member Karan?
Present.
Board Member Shalo Hernandez?
Present.
Board Member Gandara? Absent. Chair Sanchez?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we're on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the agenda and any changes to the agenda. Shaking heads. So if I get a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Motion to approve the agenda, Sheldra.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda and it's seconded. If there's any input, hearing none, if I can get a roll call, please.
Board Member Weir?
Yes.
Board Member Karan?
Yes.
Board Member Shalo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to the meeting minutes. Agenda item 4A, which is the approval of the minutes from the regular ASCMV board meeting held on April 27th, 2023. If I can get a motion and a second for approval.
Motion to approve the minutes, Sheldra Hernandez.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Sheldra Hernandez.
Seconded, Corin.
And a second by Councilor Corrin. Thank you. Are there any comments, changes to the minutes? Not hearing or seeing any, so if we can have a motion to approve the minutes from April 27th, 2023.
Move to approve, Corin.
Second, Sheldra Hernandez.
I think we had the first we had the first motion. Sorry about that. No, we're just asking for the roll call. I apologize for that, Commissioner, Councilor.
Board Member Weir?
Yes.
Board Member Karan?
Yes.
Board Member Shalo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we're on to reports and presentations, which we'll start with the Coalition for Pets and People. I know we was we were trying to get community members to come in. I didn't know if there's anybody present. All right, so we'll work on trying to get another member of our community for the June meeting. So we'll move on to city and county ACO reports. You want to go? Yeah, let's do this. Good morning.
Good morning, board members. I don't know. There we go. Thank you. My name is Brian Halsey. I'm the caseworker for Donan County Animal Control. I'm here to present the April 2023 JPA report. We had 258 reported stray animals. Out of the 258, we were able to get 223 stray animals picked up. We had 87 stray cats and 136 stray dogs. We picked up 13 sick or injured animals. 4 of those were cats and 9 were dogs. And we had 8 owner surrender animals, and they were all dogs for this month. This is our reported stray animal calls comparison. This is our 4-year return to owner in the field. We had 18 for April. It was a little low, but if you see for the past years, it's right there about where it is for last year and for 2020. These are our additional animals that we picked up. Again, we had no owner surrender cats. We had 8 surrendered dogs. We had 13 sick or injured animals. We had 3 welfare holds. For those that are new, welfare holds again are for if Border Patrol or a sheriff unit or an LCPD officer detains anybody and they have dogs or anything like that or cats, that's what those are for. We take them to the Animal Services Center so that way they could get their animals back. We had 5 shelter quarantines. We had 6 home quarantines. We had 1 court hold case. We currently have 0 animals that are live evidence. facility. We had 2 rabies submissions. They both came back negative. We had 42 diverted intakes. And per the board, we added a new to the slide. It was for general education. So for the month of April, we had 377 educational materials or talks to people, and that ranges anything from spay and neuter, rabies, the community cat program, anything that we feel that we need to educate on. These are our districts. And these are our stray animals picked up per district. We had 12 dogs in District 1. I believe that was a litter of dogs, and that's why it was so high for that one. In District 2, we had 24 cats and 12 dogs. District 3, we had a total of 29. District 4 was high again. People started trapping again in District 4. That's why that one's a little higher. We had 69 animals and 39 of those were cats. In District 5, we had a lot of litters in District 5 for April. That's why that one's so high in dogs. District 6, we only had 6, and then District 7 is usually about where it's always at with 36. These are stray cats picked up by district. And these are stray dogs by district. And these are our reasons for animal surrenders. We had one that they were just unable to keep on the property, so they decided to own or surrender it. We had 2 that were from vicious and livestock attacks. We had 2 that were aggressive, 2 that were injured, sick, or just a little too old. And 1, they had too many animals, so they released 1 to stay within county ordinances. And for that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions this time? Ms. Ward?
I don't have a question, but I do have an addition to this presentation. I know last month we talked about, in addition to these statistics, we also wanted, someone on the board had a question as to how many calls the animal control officers took and just basic overall calls for the year. And so we said we'd get those numbers. And so far for 2023, and that's from January till April, the officers have taken 2,768 calls for service. That's answered calls, and that's with the amount of officers that the department has. In 2022 was 7,675. In 2021 was 8,476, and in 2020 was 8,911 calls for service. I just wanted to add that information out there for the board.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ward.
Thank you.
That's a lot of calls.
Yeah, keeps us busy.
Okay. Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez?
More of just a request. Can we get in the form of an email the district locations again? And if you can just forward that so we have that on file. Exactly.
This one right here?
Yep, that one right there.
Okay.
And then when we go to the district numbers and it shows how many, I really like this, but I'm just always trying to reference what district is where. So if we can just put those titles in this, I think it would be really helpful to me since I have no idea where District 6 is. And so on and so forth.
Just for clarification for myself, so you're wanting these titles inside of this one?
Yeah, that would be really
Okay.
great, just so that we can reference a little bit better.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Gino Jimenez. I will present to you the April 2023 statistics for the city of Las Cruces. So for the month of April, we responded to 546 stray calls. Of those, 233 were GOA. We were able to apprehend 313 of them. 255 went to the Animal Service Center, 160 being dogs, and 95 being cats. We were successful in field RTOing 58 animals. Those are animals that never crossed the threshold of the Animal Service Center. We were unsuccessful in field RTOing 32. Those are animals that had some sort of identification. However, we weren't able to get a hold of the owners at that time. So that gave us a total of 90 identifiable animals. Here is our 3-year stray comparison. Again, we had 546 for the month, brings us to a total of 1,953 for the year. And you can see by the chart, we're keeping within that trend. Next is our 3-year field RTO comparison. Again, we had 58 for the month, bringing us to a total of 157 for the year. Thankfully, we had a spike last month. Well, hopefully that trend continues. Next is our community cat program. We responded to 60 cats in traps. We were able to release 9 of those. So you'll see the yellow and tan, I guess, would be for 2023. For 2022, and for 2023 is the blue and green. Next is our calls for service. Like Mary Lou said, there was a request for a number of calls that ACO responds to. So the top line is what we did in April, whereas the bottom line is what we've done year to date. Now, on these, we also use it as, I guess it was Board Member Gandara that requested a educational component. We take these, every single call, as an opportunity to educate, especially if we have citizen contact. So if you look at the different topics or types, we have our bites, care and maintenance, cats and traps, our follow-ups, animal control calls. Those can be anything from a wildlife call to a phone call to a anything other than the ones already specifically earmarked. Cruelty calls, dead animal pickups, animals in custody, livestock calls, loud animal complaints, sick or injured complaints, snakes, strays, traps, vicious, others. And the others is simply where it's not categorized correctly. That would be, for example, an officer, an ACO goes to assist a PD officer on a follow-up for, let's say, a domestic violence call. And instead of creating their own animal control call, they get put in with that PD call. And it never gets cleared up with central dispatch, so it's not specific to an ACO call, therefore it's another. So that gives us a grand total for the month of 1,187, and for the year, 4,609. Next is our reasons for owners releasing their animals. 4 for incompatible with their other animals, 4 for aggression, 4 cats unable to care for, 4 dogs unable to, they could no longer afford, 3 dogs for age, 2 were euthanasia requests, 2 dogs unable to care for, 2 dogs could not keep them confined, 2 dogs the owners had health issues themselves, 1 because it bit somebody, and finally 1 dog was too rough with their older dog, showed food aggression. Finally, here are our reasons for the unable to field RTO. 24, there was no contact by phone or at the residence. 1 was a Chaparral address, 1 was an El Paso address, and 1 was a Utah address. 3 chips were not registered. 1 owner was out of town, unable to, said that they would redeem it from the Animal Service Center. 1 dog escaped while they were in Las Cruces, and they would pick it up at the Animal Service Center. They were actually at a doctor's appointment in Alamogordo. 3 dogs, or 1 dog, the owner gave it away 3 years ago and couldn't contact the new owner. 1, the animal control officer did make contact with the dog owner. They waited at the Animal Service Center for an extended period of time. Calls started to pen, so that officer had to impound that dog. And finally, there was 1, this is a rare one. There was no contact with the chip manufacturer or company, and they had no customer service options as on their phone, on their automated service. Finally, here are some highlights that again was asked for by last month. We did a 2-hour presentation with the Cub Scouts, and then the 183 hours, those are hours the officers spent in training last month. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Supervisor Jimenez? No? Oh, quiet. We're a quiet bunch today.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to the shelter statistics and activities.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Thacker.
Good morning. Clint Thacker, Executive Director at the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley, here to talk to you about May. No, April numbers, it is May. Sorry for that. So currently in the center, as of 2 days ago, we have 382 dogs, 106 cats, for a grand total of 484. That is over what we consider to be a capacity of care issue. So as you see, we're going to present some numbers to you. Some are really high, and that is because we need to keep the population low so we have that capacity to care for the animals. Certain guidelines in the state want us to give a certain amount per animal of time for staffing. So if our staff's low, that means our capacity of care is lower. If our staffing is full, or in other words, we can provide more care, and that means we have more hours and we can house more animals. So our intake is an incredible 831 animals came into the center in April. Okay, there we go. 831. 527 cats, 290 dogs, 297 cats. And how those animals came into the center. We have 130 came in as owner surrender. Our highest one was strays by ACOs. That's normal. 53% of that number that came in, 800 came in by ACOs. The next highest is by the public, and 24%, so a quarter of them, and then 15% owner surrenders, and then the rest were small amounts that came in. Some of the returns we had for our adoptions that came back, 12 dogs, 1 cat. As always, we always try to educate the individuals when they come back, how can we help you? Behavior problems. I know one person brought in a dog because it was a puppy and it kept going to the bathroom in the kitchen. We're like, well, we can work with you on that. And they're like, nope, don't want it. I want another one. So we told that individual that all dogs poop. So it's just a matter of training and helping them out. And of course, those are offered at the time. Here's diverted intakes. Again, 158 dogs. So a diverted intake, for those that aren't familiar, maybe watching so when somebody comes to the center, whether it be a owner's surrender or I found this stray, our front office will educate the individual, or ask them, are you willing to hold on to the animal if it's a stray? You can go for a walk, give suggestions, and try to find the animal, go door to door. Or if it's an owner's surrender, you say, we can vaccinate the animal right now. We're full capacity. We can vaccinate it, and we can make an appointment for you to come back and bring the animal later. But here is some resources to try to find another place for it to go. So of those things, 217 were diverted. An interesting number that we're trying to figure out how to capture is the number of these diverted intakes who actually comes back and enters into the facility. That would be an interesting number that we're interested in. So we're just trying to figure out how to do it, because with the software we have, you have to bring the animal into the software called an intake, and we're trying to figure out how we can intake an animal and track it without actually intaking the animal. So it's a discussion we're having with our Shelter Love software people now. So how did these animals leave? 15% left adoptions, 13.5% reclaimed, 25% left rescued. 8% was community cats, and 25% was euthanasia. That leaves us with a live release rate. In other words, the rate or the number of animals that left the center alive was 71%. That euthanasia number is high because, again, we are looking at the quality of care. So we're at over max capacity. So what we're doing is targeting the animals that aren't responding, and you'll see that, I believe, in the next slide here. This is our transfers of where they went. Again, Action Program for Animals has always been a big local rescue for us, and we appreciate all that they do for us. So this is our euthanasia reasons. As you see, medical, parvo, and respiratory signs are the biggest ones for dogs. So when an animal breaks, and parvo is generally with the young dogs that come in, so they're already showing clinical signs for it, so we don't treat for it. We have no space to treat for parvo right now because they need their own space. So we do a non-treatment euthanasia for parvo. Same with respiratory signs. If they already come in with it, and we have no space for treating, that's what we're doing. Also, if another problem with parvo is how highly contagious it is. So if it is in a kennel and it does break with parvo, we do euthanize its kennel mate because it's guaranteed that that animal is going to have it. So it's these necessary things that we have to do to keep the majority of the health of the animals higher, but it's hard decisions, absolutely hard. On a happier note, the amount of surgeries we're doing is phenomenal. I don't know if you've been to the center, you've seen the small surgical suite that we have, but the 300 surgeries that they did in April is just phenomenal, the amount they do. You can see it's broken down. 80 was TNR, 42 was adoptions, shelter foster is 136, and then other was 42, and that could be anything from amputation to, it's just anything other than those things that we offer. Our volunteers continue to work really hard. Our dog walking team, I'd like to give a shout out. They came in April, as they do every month. I'm sorry, in May, as they do every month. And they walk every animal that's available at the center. So these animals are getting out, they're seeing sunlight, they get exhausted and tired and get to go back in. The only problem is it's only once a month that they all get walked. Dogs are being walked every single day at the center. Volunteers come in and walk these animals. Our cat care team does a fantastic job of providing extra care for the cats and enrichment, we call it, when the animal gets to be played with or some type of brain stimuli that allows the animal to exercise a little bit, whether it be mentally or physically. But 500 hours is how much they gave us, and that's phenomenal. Our visitors are staying steady at 1,359. This, I believe that it's actually higher than this because if somebody comes in, they just sign their name in, but they could have, if it was my family coming in, you'd have a whole, rugby team of people following behind. So, but that is just for signed in individuals. Website page views, we're still up there, 37,000. And for those watching for the first time again, page view is any page in the system. So if you go to our main page, that's a page view. If you click on a dog or on strays, that's a page view. If you go backwards and look at another cat, that's a page view. So 37,000, almost 38,000 page views for April. I'm sorry, I keep saying April and May and switching them universally. You know what I'm talking about, I apologize. Facebook views are, again, they are up there, 11,600 since that jump in November of 2022, and we've stayed consistently high. I think what we did is we got a big bump in following, and so that following has just stayed up there really high. We're posting some great content thanks to our volunteer coordinator and having some fun with it. We did one recently in April that was What's Your Favorite Animal? And so we just asked, hey, what's your favorite animal? And they said, oh, I love so-and-so. And they took the video camera through and showed the animal, and they were all long-termers that we had there. And it was just great for the people to see that our coworkers actually love these animals, they know them by name, and they do have favorites. So that was a very popular video in April. We hope to see that. It's upon us, the big one. Our drive-through clinic is happening on June 3rd, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Field of Dreams parking lot. This is something that people look forward to every single year. We try to do it 4 times a year, so quarterly, but it's a lot of work to put these on. But we're excited to do it for the public. As you can see in the flyer, it's free DHPP and FVRCP. So that's the distemper, and the parvo vaccine, and then FVRCP is pretty much the same thing, but for cats. So those are free. Thank you for Petco Love is giving us that grant and helping us. And then the McCune Foundation has done the first 250 microchips are free for individuals. And then it's just $10 after that. So you still have to pay or purchase the rabies and the Bordetell and the microchips, but again, it's only $10 for each of those. If you bring a dog to a veterinarian to get these same things, it's a lot more than what we'll be charging. Again, you just drive up, you stay in your car, air conditioner on, or windows down, and you listen to music and chill and just make your way through the line until you come. The first tent picks up the information you want to have done. The second tent, you pay for it. And the third tent is where the animal gets its vaccines and you drive off. So a great program. And we have our animals, our pets of the week, Thor and Frank. And that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Clint? Just more of a comment. I find myself speechless with the number of animals that we're continuing to see, and I think seeing the 800 intakes is just mind-blowing, and not necessarily in a good way. And I know, like you said, it's everything the staff is doing to keep up, the volunteers are doing to keep up, and the partners in the community, the rescues, I know they're doing their part as well, and it's just kind of overwhelming. And I think it is frustrating being in this seat to hear where people are surrendering animals simply because they're, peeing and pooping in the wrong place, that they just need training or something small that can be corrected, and they don't want to put the time in because they want something simple. And that's, doesn't always happen with the pet. It's just like a family member, and you put in time. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's just, all I can say is just, it takes my breath away to see how many numbers, and we're not even into the peak of summer yet, so.
Yeah, numbers have climbed back up to pre-COVID, where we're at, and it'll continue to do that until we do some kind of change. It's insanity to think that we can change something by doing the same thing over and over. So the strategic plan that we're planning on, hopefully towards the end of June, maybe in August, I'm working very closely with Best Friends to get all that planned. I have weekly calls with them. The reason why I haven't let the board know is because we're still trying to balance a date between preparation, but also time for all of us to be together for a day or two to talk about the strategic plan for the ASCMV. But it is going to happen this summer, is what we're looking at. And hopefully with those different ideas that everybody gives us, because this is going to involve feedback from the board, it involves feedback from the public, it involves feedback from my coworkers that we have. So hopefully with those things, we'll be able to develop a plan and move forward on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we'll appreciate it, Clint.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, we're on to now committee reports. So we'll start off with the Finance Committee. And I know Ms. De Leon is not here, so Ms. DeMouche.
Yes, Board Chair, board members, the Finance Committee did meet. I happened to be on vacation during that time, but I met with my team. They did go over the unaudited financials. They are attached in your packet. However, I just would like to note, if you look at the very first bullet there, it talked, one of our accounting supervisors, Josh Saffel, showed that there was a cash deficit for a accounts receivable. It was received in the 1st of May, and the Animal Service Center financials are looking very clean and on task. So we'd like to report that.
Great, thank you, Ms. Mush. All right, will there be a presentation today, or did we, regarding the financials, or we just, no, okay, just want to make sure.
Board Chair, it's my understanding that it was decided by the board that the financials would be presented quarterly.
Correct, I just wanted to make sure. I thank you for the reminder.
Yes, sir.
All right. Then move on to the executive committee. We did not meet as executive committee in the past month. I know we had several conflicts, and so we don't have anything to report for the executive committee this month. So we'll move on to the facilities committee. Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez.
Clint, do you have anything that you wanted to add before I talk about the meeting?
I just have the 3 things that are main discussion topics of the facility committee.
Perfect.
You want me to do it, or you want?
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay, so we talked about how the access door readers at the existing center, the old center, they're still not working. We received a follow-up on the email, and they stated that there was no follow-up. There's no update on that. There's an issue between the software reading all the different cards in the city system, and so they fight one another. Last we heard is that they found a product, but they're trying to find money with facilities. So I'll request before the next facility meeting, I believe next week or the week after, I'll ask for another follow-up, see if we can get something before then. I do have some exciting news. There is a very large semi currently being unloaded this morning at the ASCMV for our kennels. We're very excited about that. They're unloading them into the existing center, and I also saw some Jane's Construction, they're their general contractor. They are there as well, so hopefully within the next 2 weeks we can get some construction going to put those kennels in. The new building is still not city property. Substantial completion has not been completed for that, so we're just waiting for that go-ahead. And and as I said, the shipping, I have here the shipping date. So the puppy cages, if you remember, there's 2 separate kennel issues going on. Inside the pods, there's an opening in the cinder block wall for puppy cages to go in. And these are stainless steel cages. The customer side is glass, and then the staff side in the back is caged. So we can have access and open it. The company that we went with to do the kennels, for some reason they changed their mind and they don't make them. So we had to go, we actually got, this morning got a printout of a total and a quote that we can have a submittal for approval from another company to put those in. So that's exciting news as well, so that's moving forward. You're gonna see today as well a change for funds. We're requesting a resolution where we're going to apply a grant to get the cement. It's $80,000, and we're going to use that grant, and I'll explain it more when we get to the resolutions. But that cement project is also moving forward as well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Clint. Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions on facilities? Okay. Thank you. All right, we're on to then our discussion items, which we have the Executive Director's Annual Performance Review. Just wanted to briefly discuss, at least that we're coming up on the time on which usually we've done it at the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, but we're looking now to, I think as per the JPA, it's done in June, July, and so that's where in our next meeting, I know we're what I plan to do, along with Mayor Pro Tem Gondara and the Vice Chair Gondara, is We have our evaluation form. In advance of the next meeting, we'll be sending that out to the board members, so that way you can look to provide some feedback, and we can start collecting that information to prepare for the June meeting. Right now, I'd like to tentatively schedule to have a closed session to discuss it as the board, the initial feedback. I know, speaking with Clint, there could be a potential conflict for him and the ASCMV that day, and so we'll just, as we get closer to our June meeting, we'll figure that thing, those things out, or if we need to adjust, we will. But just wanted to at least give all the board members a heads up that we'll be sending out the evaluation forms to fill out in preparation for the June meeting. So, are there any questions or comments on the process? Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll move on to Section 7A, or Item 7A, which is an action item for Resolution 2023-04, which is to accept $2,500 from the McCune Foundation microchip grant. If I can get a motion in a second to begin discussion, please.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez,
Seconded by Corin.
and a second by Councilor Corn. Thank you. Clint.
Sorry, you get to hear from me again next several. So the $2,500 is the grant from the McCune Foundation to cover the microchips for the drive-through clinic that's happening on June 3rd. So that's for.
Okay.
Any
That keeps it
questions?
simple.
That's simple.
Are there questions on the action item? All right. If I can get a roll call, please, on Resolution 2023-04.
Board Member Weir?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Board Member Shalo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. All right, well, now on to Resolution 2023-05, to accept $75,000 from Petco Love Animal Welfare Organization grant. If I get a motion in a second for.
So moved, Corin.
Moved by Councilor Corn,
Second, Sheldon Hernandez.
and second by Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez. Clint.
Thank you. This grant from the Petco Foundation was originally meant to give us more money or funds to purchase a mobile vet clinic. The grant was a little bit different this year. It did not ask for an amount that you're asking for. Rather, they granted us what they felt like we qualified for. So we received, and I'll cover this in the next grant, but we received some money from the Carol Petrie Foundation. And when we looked into a mobile clinic, they're over $350,000. And so we needed more funds for it. We applied for this grant with Petco Love. We got $75,000, still nowhere near the amount that we needed to start it. And with the county having a spay and neuter clinic, or spay and neuter clinic, I guess you would call it.
Vehicle or?
Yeah, vehicle. We thought there's potential to partnership there. Why duplicate the efforts? So we contacted Petco Love, and they said that we can use it for any life-saving methods that we would like. So we would like to ask for your receiving approval of this grant for life-saving efforts.
Thank you, Clint. Are there any questions on the grant? Comments? All right. Well, then if I can get a roll call on 2023-05.
Board Member Weir?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Board Member Shalo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. All right, then now to Resolution 2023-06 is to adjust the adopted fiscal year 23 budget to redirect grant funds to cover operating expenses. If I get a motion in a second to begin discussion, please.
So moved, Corin.
All right, we have a motion by Councilor Corn
Second, Sheldon Hernandez.
and a second by Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez. Clint.
Thank you. As you heard me before, the $150,000 was received by Cal Petrie to purchase a mobile vet clinic unit. That amount was out of reach, so we contacted them again, asking if we could change this to a general purpose. As you see in your notes there, they did allot that with no problem whatsoever. So for general use, life-saving is what it's for. So we're going to be adding this money into our budget this year so we can purchase the $80,000 for the cement, and then also some will be going into the minor equipment in our medical department so they can purchase some, they're called wet tables for surgery, and also other minor equipment that they need when they move from their existing small suite. When we leave the center, they're going to bring their items up and be in the existing adoptable cat room is what they're going to be utilizing for a new surgical suite. So that will help purchase those items as well. Ms. Demuth, did I miss anything on that? Okay.
Thank you, Clint. All right, are there any questions on this resolution? Comments? All right, then I'll ask for a roll call, please, on Resolution 2023-06.
Board Member Weir?
Yes.
Board Member Curran?
Yes.
Board Member Shayla Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. And that concludes our list of action items for the day. And so we're on to public input. Is there any public input at this time? Good morning.
Good morning. Kathy Stark. I usually stream these at home because mornings are a little tough for me, but I dropped off some broken promises TNR cats, so I thought, well, I'll just come here. Like Board Member Sanchez, I've been watching the numbers of animals going into the shelter. I've been watching the numbers of puppies, kittens, the call for immediate fosters because they're just too young to stay at the shelter overnight. They need 2-hour feedings. And studies will tell you that the biggest barrier to spay and neuter is economic. And so this is a general question for the board, but I'll be addressing the larger elected officials is, you know, what as our government leaders are we willing to do to help people? They need help to get this done. I don't know if you're aware that the Cat's Meow has been holding mobile vet clinics. They've had to stop because the people coming cannot afford even their reduced fee. I understand that the SNAP program has raised their co-payment, which is likely to put it out of reach for many of the people that need that program. Last I saw on the board action on the community cat program, which of course is my passion along with the puppies, was $101,500. I believe that was the approved amount. I don't know that the county's approved your budget yet, but the city has approved their budget, and I found that extremely distressing. Given the numbers, number one, given what we know is the need and the public requests for help in managing these cats, and they're not, I think a lot of people are under the misconception that these are all ferals, and they're not. A large percentage of them are cats that have been abandoned. And the original proposed budget for just the city TNR was slightly over $311,000, and so coming to $101,000, I have to question, are we serious about controlling the reproduction and thereby controlling those numbers that are going into the shelter? And so I found that extremely depressing. The other question I'd like to raise, and again, I haven't seen the finals, but it was my understanding that the board approved an increase in the surrender cost from $25 to $35, which in my little brain says that's counterintuitive because we have animals being dumped everywhere. Do we not want to make it easier if people truly are not going to keep these animals for them to surrender somewhere where they can get care or be humanely killed? I don't use euthanasia anymore. I use killed because that's what it is, versus being dumped in the desert I was just telling Gino, somebody went through the border checkpoint up in Hatch and dropped a box with a mom and 6 kittens. And it's like, we need to make it easier for people to turn those animals in somewhere where they're properly and humanely handled. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Stark. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we're on to chair and board comments. Oh, I'm sorry.
It looks like there's another comment, or?
And if you could come up to the microphone so that way we can hear you for the record.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I apologize that Rocio Gamboa, budget analyst. I wanted to see if, Leanne's input regarding the resolutions that were approved, 04 and 05. I made the fund summaries for both of them together. And I think DFA, because the money is lumped together, the 75 and the 2,500, how do we correct that? Because it's going to be an issue once we process this to DFA.
So, Board Chair, Leanne Demush, Finance Director, I actually, when I was going through it, as y'all were, I caught it afterwards, and I apologize, but I sent a quick message to the team that the very first fund summary showed the 77K, but the resolution was only to adopt $2,500. So actually the resolution should have had the fund summary for only $2,500. What we can do is maybe contact DFA, and if they'll go ahead, and that way we can adjust the budget, because it has been adopted on the second resolution as a total. Because the second resolution was for 75 and the fund summary shows 77. So we'll check with DFA on that, but it could be at the next board meeting. We may need to bring that resolution back and only show the fund summary for 2,500. But I would believe that Clint would be able to go ahead and start using those funds immediately after this meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
I
Ms.
just wasn't
Thank you,
sure.
Ms. Gamboa. I mean, do we want to theoretically do an amendment? I guess reconsider the vote, do an amendment, or just I just want to make sure that we don't cause any issues, like you said, for Clint. If he can use the funds, and we're, now that we've signed it.
Board Chair, it probably would. I will apologize and say I don't know really the rules of bringing a resolution back to this board, but if it could be amended at this time, and I'm looking at Becky to see if we could do that, but if we could and somebody was willing to make an amendment saying that way we can redo those fund summaries and then attach them to the resolution as an amendment to the resolutions.
I mean, I think if there's no objection to it, I think what we could do is, like I said, we'll just, like I said, reconsider the vote, in that then we can bring it back forward, just make the amendment verbally, and no, because I mean, if there's changes to a resolution that are done in the middle of a meeting, you're not gonna have that immediately updated. So we can make that amendment in the motion, and then accept it as is, and then you guys can correct the items after the meeting, if
that would be, I think, a lot cleaner, a lot more transparent, and would be acceptable. Both of those resolutions would need to be amended. One just saying that the fund summary should only reflect 2,500, and then the other one reflecting the 75,500. 75,000 straight, yes.
So that would be on both 04 and 05, we would have to make those changes.
Yes, sir, you would.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, this is on the exhibits of each, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
And the line item under local grants, which says 77,500. And so both, basically Exhibit A.
And
Is
Exhibit A
duplicated.
for both resolutions,
Okay,
Counselor,
I
yes.
understand. Okay, I've never been in a situation like this, so I have no idea what the actual rules are, so. But I see what you're saying.
Yes. I apologize. I was looking through the resolution and reading it, and then I noticed after it was adopted that there was that in there, and I pointed it out to staff. It might, I mean, we do have a resolution. It is approved. The last one is approved. What we can, like I said, what we can do is just bring this at the next meeting to just make a correction to it. It should be fine, but maybe Clint might want to chime in.
Clint Thacker, Executive Director. We don't, the $75,000 was just to accept it. We didn't have any plans to use it at this point right now. The $2,500, we did have to purchase the microchips. However, we can absorb that into our budget and then realign, correct? We can say this was actually for this and tie them together, and they can subtract it after the grant has been received. So I don't see any problems if we do it
And Board Chair, if I can add, this might even be better because none of these grants, I'm making an assumption here and I apologize, none of these grants, you're bringing these into the FY23 budget. So if the Animal Service Center is not going to use it in FY23, they're going to need to bring it in again as a budget adjustment for FY24. And since the budget for the county and the city have been adopted, we can do that at the very next meeting as well, and that will really clean it up.
Okay, I mean, that'll work, and I think I understand the correction here is just, so, I mean, to me, it's almost just a clerical, maybe I'm wrong. I think because the resolution itself is stating the correct amounts, the exhibits just need to be corrected. I'm okay with, like you're saying, we can accept them as is for now and then come and do corrections next month if we need to.
So, Board Chair sorry, Corinne. For a resolution, it's the that are actually adopted, and the that actually says Exhibit A. So that is why it needs to be fixed. But since this is something that Animal Service Center is going to use in FY24, my recommendation is that we just make an adjustment to the FY24 budget at the next board meeting. And that will really help the Animal Service Center at the same time.
Thank you, Ms. Commissioner. Councilor Corrin, did you have any other questions? Or?
No, I was just going to say the issue is that they don't actually say the number in the that. So that's hence the, yeah.
So is the board okay with coming, I guess, leaving as is and then correcting in June, or do we want to take action now?
I feel like it would be really confusing to take back something and then amend it and then fix it on the fly, as we would be doing if we were doing it here. So I would ask that we do the recommended thing in the future, if it doesn't impede any actual spending of the money or fixing that. So.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Then we'll take that approach. So thank you, Mr. Moose. Thank you, Councilor Corrin. All right, then we're on to chair and board comments. Are there any comments from the board? All right, then we're on to our last item, which is adjournment. So I get a motion in a second to adjourn. Oh, Ms. Ward, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a statement and bring some information for the board. The department, Animal Control Department, has brought back our old ACEs program, which we had our community suite program, which we used to do for the public with go out with our codes and do community suite. But in the past, our ACEs was more in depth, where the whole department would go out and do an educational outreach and do a grid area where we would go in one day a week into a community where we thought was a hot topic area, where we had the most violations, or maybe we're picking up the most animals in that community, and go and educate that area. Then we would come back maybe a week and a little bit over a week later and provide the resources in that community with the roll-off, and maybe partner with the shelter and other entities, and provide the resources for those people in that community. We're also going back into that community a month later to provide follow-ups for those residents in that community. So that'll also give us something measurable that's going to come back into play, and that's going to start in June. We did partner with Codes on that and meet with them. So we have a calendar set for the rest of this fiscal year and going into next fiscal year that will be set. And then we're going to focus on that and looking at all the spay and neutering and trying to really concentrate on those areas.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ward. That's great information. Is there a chance you might be able to send that calendar to the commissioners so that we're aware when it'll be?
We will get that out. We just created it yesterday.
Perfect, awesome. Thank you. Okay, are there any other comments? No? Ms. Ward, here, okay, I saw you grab the mic, okay. All right, then, again, now we're back to, so I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
So moved, Shelter Hernandez.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second? I will second it then. And we'll call this meeting adjourned at 10:05 a.m. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you in June.